It's time to level up your learning experience.
It's time to level up.
Welcome to the Level Up Learning Show.
Hey, welcome everybody to the next episode of the Level Up Learning Show. My name is Jared Borman. I'm an instructional designer for AEA Learning Online. And today I have a brand new co-host with me, Mr. Craig Mohr. Mr. Craig Mohr, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a new little toy here, little new microphone.
Oh.
How do I sound?
You sound great. You sound great.
Do I sound like R&B DJ where we're just going to hit the big hits all night? Top 40. This one's going out to all.
It sounds like you've done this before. That wasn't your first time doing that. I can tell.
Well, let's just say if this whole AEA Learning Online gig doesn't work out, maybe I can throw my hat into the ring at some radio station.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I don't know, do you watch ASMR videos? Do you know what those are?
No.
So ASMR, some of the listeners out there may know what I'm talking about, but think Bob Ross, where everything is super calm. You have just a direct focus, small little sounds that just calm you down. I don't know. Sometimes I watch some ASMR videos just to go to sleep. So sometimes I feel like I'm doing ASMR where I'm just being real calm here.
You have a very calming presence. I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah. I mean, as far as trying to get to sleep, speaking of which, you recently just had another kid.
Yep, absolutely. Number
and
4.
So how is the sleep going with baby number 4?
It's going good. We played a little sleep tennis last night where one of them got up and you got them down, then another one got up and you got them down. And luckily there's 2 of them. My wife's great, so she takes the lead on that. I'm just playing backup, but it's been going pretty good.
So there are bits of advice that I always try to give to new dads, brand new first child dads.
Ooh.
For me, something that I wish somebody would have told me with our firstborn is do not just any pajamas that you get that are snap pajamas, just burn them. Burn them now.
Agreed. Yep.
The worst invention ever when it comes to baby clothing. And as you know,
I agree.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we even took it a step further. And with our last 2, we found these things. They're like dresses. So there aren't even zippers. They don't have feet. It's just a really long sock you put them in and you tie the bottom. So you got to change a diaper. You open it up, roll it up, change it, put it back down, tie it. It's game changing for us.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I remember those, and I think that would be the way to go. Or if you want feet with it as they get a little older or whatever, magnets. How cool would that be? Just and it just locks in place, right? So magnets or something.
Yeah,
I don't know anything but snap, because doing snap, I vividly remember one time my wife went in the morning, and our oldest at 3 o'clock, like clockwork, 3 a.m. every morning, he would want to be fed. So I would go in and do that duty because, my wife's done a lot of other things. And so I just, she literally walked into our bedroom with our son and she goes, "What is this?" And he I'm pretty sure an arm wasn't even in, and none of the snaps were lined up at all. And I was like, it's 3 a.m. I'm sleep deprived. It's the worst. It's it feels like Chinese algebra. Doing Chinese algebra at 3 a.m. It's just horrible.
Not worth it. I agree.
No, not at all. Hey, but it is definitely time now for our show and tell. So I got a video here lined up, and when I saw this, I don't know why it made me laugh so hard, but I want you to watch this video, and I want to get your reaction to it.
Hello?
Hi, Kati. I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm doing some grading and it looks like I'm missing one of your assignments still.
My assignment?
Yeah, if you'll recall your Layers of the Earth project.
How long ago was that?
Let's see, we're in 2022. I gave you a week extension. It's been 7 years.
7 years!
I can still do half credit, but I really need it by the end of the day.
7 years ago. 7 years ago, I haven't even started on it. Now give her a nap. Give her a nap.
I'm sorry to say this is going to come up at parent-teacher conferences.
When is that?
I'm going to see your mom in a couple minutes.
My mom's at work.
That's what you think.
Oh, here you go.
Let's discuss it later. Maybe we can come up with an alternative assignment or something.
You could probably give me another extension of like 4 years and I'll get it done.
I'll give you an 100 right now if you can tell me what the topmost layer of the Earth is.
The crust.
Yeah, girl! 100%! I knew I taught you something. Okay, love you, bye!
Love you too. Bye.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine calling your students 7 years after they graduate and asking them for assignments that they haven't turned in yet?
Yeah, exactly. It flips the script. There's so many times in the classroom that the students do stuff to joke with you or to, get a laugh in your classroom that you might not even know about it, but just flips the script a little bit. That's great.
Yeah, my favorite part was talking about how this is going to come up at parent-teacher conferences. Yeah. Well, I hate to say
yeah, I will say the student was a good sport.
I recommend that account. I'll post the account link as well as the username, Miss Christina Costa. She's got 91,000 followers on TikTok. I recommend. It's hilarious. She's got a lot of funny ones on there that are all education related. And if you're needing a good chuckle, man, she's got some good ones. So I recommend anyone listening, go check it out. It's funny stuff. So let's dive in a little bit to our main interview here today. And we had the chance to talk with Laura Edwards. I'm going to let you introduce Laura Edwards because this has a lot to do with the work that you've been doing for AEA Learning Online. And I'll let you kind of talk about how did the connection happen and, how did we end up getting Laura here for the interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So Laura's been great to work with. As she had mentioned, she had recently taken over the Vice President of Training and Education at Hy-Vee. Previously, we had worked with her predecessor, but originally the connection came from, it was around 2020 probably, the Future Ready Iowa Employer Innovation Fund supported some development of innovative ways to reach and connect Iowa students and Iowa businesses. And in 2020, we had connected with Hy-Vee, and Hy-Vee was interested in creating a more robust pipeline for their current employees and future employees, the future workforce, being the Iowa students. Laura also mentioned in her interview, you hear her talk about how so many people at Hy-Vee have worked their way up. So it's important there that they're getting people and then they're developing the people internally. And we found that, that's a great resource for Iowa schools and Iowa students. So, we connected with them. We worked on creating these career modules. We call them career investigations. And Hy-Vee dug into 3 of them. Laura's been the lead for the retail. And before Laura, it was Jess. And they're also building one on IT, information technology, and supply chain. So the goal is that students that are interested in these types of things can access Iowa's personalized learning system, and they can take the content that's developed and supported by Iowa businesses, and it's made for Iowa students. So you're not getting an example of a company in Florida that's doing something, or you could go to some college in California for this training. What the purpose of it is, these are Iowa examples built by Iowa businesses for Iowa students with Iowa education opportunities highlighted. So, the hope is that we're helping students, we're helping businesses. And I think as we help all of, business students and businesses, we're also helping communities. It's a win-win-win here for the AEAs and Iowa businesses.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I guess, I mean, I had been a part of the AEA at one point, but I was in more of the brick or mortar kind of buildings. And I didn't really know that there was that kind of connection, that connections being made between the education sector and the business sector. You know what I mean? And so to see that connection
Yep.
happening, I think that's really neat. And what's really neat is in the interview, um, making some of those connections and talking with Laura, I had a chance to chat with her and making some of those connections. There were some really clear blending of terms and pedagogical strategies that you see in the education sector that are actually being done in the business sector as well, which was so cool to see. So let's take a listen to the interview from Laura. And when we come back, you and I will do a little bit of reflection. How's that sound?
I can't wait.
It's time to level up.
How I got into this role really was I started my career with Hy-Vee on the retail side as a part-timer in high school. And I was really kind of a shy kid. And so working at Hy-Vee, I'm still a little bit shy, but Hy-Vee's helped me really come out of my shell, be more social and interactive with people. And that really came to be something that I loved about Hy-Vee and what drew me into Hy-Vee as a career. I'd been going to school for business and then ended up getting my degree in finance. And when I graduated school, it was like, okay, well, I started looking at careers that were out there, and really, I was like, I just don't know. I don't want to be sitting in a cubicle all day. I love working at Hy-Vee. Every day is different. I interact with customers and get to have lots of conversations and get to know them. And my coworkers also started to feel like a second family. And so I decided to stick with Hy-Vee as a career and got on the path to becoming a store director for Hy-Vee. And so I got into Hy-Vee University myself early on in my career and learned about the operations of the store and saw all the opportunity there was to grow in a career with Hy-Vee. And so I stayed on the path and worked in the various management roles at the store. Somebody who's on that path to become a director for Hy-Vee usually spends time in each one of those 3 leadership roles. And so I did that. And by that point, kind of decided that I wanted to change paths with my career. I was getting ready to get married and start a family. And that store director role really, you don't have to, but if you want to progress a little bit more quickly, you have to be open to moving. And so knowing that I wanted to have my kids be close to home and close to grandparents, decided to change paths. So I came to the corporate office, and for my first year here at the office, I actually worked in a few different areas of the company that were more closely related to what I did at retail, helping select items for our ads and projecting what the sales and profits and movement of those items would be to make sure we were selecting items that interested our customers and that would benefit us also from a sales perspective. And then after about a year, an opportunity came open in the training and education department in Hy-Vee University and helping to lead our Hy-Vee University and employee development programs. And I loved the opportunity that I had when I got to go through the program myself. And it opened up a lot of doors for me, helped me find my path in my career with Hy-Vee. And so when I saw that opportunity come up, I knew it was something I had to pursue. And thankfully, I was selected for the role, and 7-8 years later, here I am. So for 7 years, I helped lead the Hy-Vee University programs that we have here at Hy-Vee. And so back in the day when I went through the program, we had just one program. It was called Hy-Vee University. It was focused on our high potential employees who showed an interest and potential to becoming store directors for Hy-Vee. And now today, we offer still training programs for that store manager, store director path. We have 2 programs for employees that are on that path, but we also have a variety of other opportunities. We have internship programs. We also have certification and apprenticeship programs. We have department manager trainee programs for leaders who might want to just lead a specific area or department of Hy-Vee. And so it's really grown and evolved. And really, it's kind of helped bring what I liked about retail, something different every day, helping our employees learn and grow and navigate to where their place in Hy-Vee with a career, to help them tap into their skills and interests and let them grow into a career here with Hy-Vee.
So that's interesting that I guess Hy-Vee University, which that title obviously lends itself so well to that education sector feel, right?
Yes.
Where and at a university, you have your different pathways to kind of learn, to figure out where you want to go in your career field and so forth. So Hy-Vee University, that title makes so much sense. And I feel like that's the word that kind of draws me in to, like, I guess what I'm going to try to do is draw the comparisons between obviously Hy-Vee being a business sector, a company, versus like the education sector. So if you could, like, basically, I mean, I'm going to try to guess here in a second, but like if you could say your role within Hy-Vee is kind of equal to what kind of role in education? Is that like a principal? Is that like a superintendent? Is that like maybe it's none of that? I don't know. Maybe it's totally separate.
Yeah, I would say to equate my role would probably more be closely tied to that of like a superintendent. And then within my team, I have other leaders who oversee the specific areas, and they would probably be more like the principals, that are leading the different schools. And so they are the owners of the programs that fall underneath their area, and they help build the content, the curriculum, and facilitate the day-to-day operations of the program. Really,
almost like a curriculum director too.
Yes. Yeah. And so we work really closely for each of the departments and areas within our store. There's a retail supervisor team that oversees that area, who they have a territory of stores that they supervise and visit on a regular basis. And so we work closely with those teams and the vice president over each department to help pull together the content and build the curriculum for our programs. They're the expert. And then we use our knowledge from an education standpoint based on most of us. My entire team has at one point worked in retail. Most have worked in retail at Hy-Vee and have held some type of a management or leadership role within the company. And then we have a few others who have actually come to us from other retailers, but it's a pretty similar experience. And so while to this point, none of us are particularly educated in education or adult learning, we have grasped the concepts of what it takes to learn and develop into a position based on our experience doing it ourselves in the store and understanding the operations of Hy-Vee. And I say that, but one exciting thing, we actually, with some opportunities that came up in our department, that is what led to me changing positions. And then it opened up another opportunity for us to add someone to our team. And so actually in a couple of weeks, we're going to be adding an assistant director of employee development to our team. And she actually has her master's in education. She spent time in the classroom, at the college level. And so we're excited to add her to our team. We know we've been able to pull together good programs and good content to this point, and we've seen success in the growth and development of our employees, but we know she's going to help us be able to take it to a whole nother level and just add that additional skill set to our team. So we are really excited about that.
That's really cool that you recognize the fact that this is having that skill set and bringing it on is going to add that extra value as well. And then it also kind of sounds like, to do further equating as well, is like, you mentioned the different departments, the perishables and stuff like that. That's almost like math, English, science, kind of like the different content areas. So in order to get to your kind of role, you've dabbled in each of those areas that then allow you to have sort of like a bigger idea about the total operations in order to be in your kind of role, is what it sounds like. I don't know, like that's really neat to kind of hear. And I guess my next question is sort of like, I know that we've talked a little bit about, you've mentioned before that you guys started to utilize the flipped learning concept within your trainings. And I guess maybe talk about what led to that and how are you utilizing that strategy in the actual business sector when it comes to training these employees in these different roles?
Sure. So we've always been really focused in trying to be proactive in helping to grow talent from within Hy-Vee, because who's going to know Hy-Vee and our customers best other than people who are already working for us? And so we've always been really focused on investing in our employees and helping them grow and develop into a career with Hy-Vee. And so over the years, we started to notice that we've changed our structure a little bit here internally. And so we used to operate our stores and we had one store director who oversaw operations for that store. And they had a management team that supported them, like I mentioned. So they would have a manager that oversaw store operations, a manager that oversaw perishables, and a manager that oversaw the non-foods areas of the stores. And then really that team was the leaders of the store. And so it's about 3 years ago now, we actually restructured and we added in a store manager for every one of our stores to add another layer of support there to help lead and guide the stores. That happened right about the time that COVID hit. And, ever since COVID, I think there's probably no area of business that hasn't been impacted long term. And so we added in that store manager level to help us better support our stores, better lead, and have somebody who is really there owning the day to day. And then we elevated that store director role to be a district store director. And so those district directors might oversee anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 store locations. And so they're taking their knowledge and expertise and visiting each one of the stores that they supervise to help grow skill sets, help them be strategically focused on where Hy-Vee needs to go. And then the store manager is in the store facilitating the day-to-day operations. And so with that, and promoting, over 200 employees into that store manager role, we really depleted a lot of our resources of trained employees who are ready to go and step up into those next roles for leadership within Hy-Vee. And so we continued to operate our programs. And through that, we were seeing that the interaction and engagement with the trainees had kind of dropped off. And we were a little confused by it. And so we started digging in and surveying our employees and having one-on-one conversations, asking them about why they weren't engaging in the training. And at that point, we were really doing more of a lecture style learning where we were bringing employees in. It was really kind of a classroom or auditorium style environment. They were hearing 8 hours of presentations from those department supervisors who were leading the areas of the company. And then they would, take that information, they would go back to their store, work hands-on in their store with the department manager that was leading that department to learn. They would fill out a training manual, turn it into us. We would facilitate the grading aspect of it, combined effort with our team and the department supervisor group for that area. And that was how the program was facilitated. And so feedback from them was that usually when they were coming in for training, it was the very first time they had ever had the opportunity to be in that particular department. And so they didn't know what they didn't know. Essentially, they weren't sure what questions to ask because they were just, kind of absorbing it all for the first time. And so that was really eye-opening to us because we'd always facilitated our training since Hy-Vee started, I think back in 2000. That was how we had operated our programs. And so we kind of pulled together and brainstormed and came up with a new system. And so we did go to that flipped approach where we worked with the department supervisor groups and took that lecture piece and recorded it. We broke it down into manageable segments that were anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes long and categorized them so that at the beginning of the training, the employee would go through that recorded version to understand the basic operations of the department, understand from a corporate level what the expectations were for that area so that they knew that before they ever set foot in the department. And then after completing those online modules, we would provide them with a digital workbook. So we also modernized the methods we were using, took everything from lecture style and paper manual based learning to electronic with online modules and digital workbooks that they could take into their department and still learn alongside their department manager. So that department manager mentor piece of the program is still really important, probably the most important piece of the learning for us. So they guide the day to day. Our activity book has activities that help guide them through, as a leader, what they need to know about the operations of that department. And then throughout the hands-on piece, we coordinate a live Zoom presentation with either the department vice president or one of the department supervisors, where they do some additional development with those employees. And so they talk on a little bit deeper level beyond what we could do in a recording about some of the detailed operations of the department, talking through how to properly do inventory procedures, talking through some of the more HR related topics, how to engage your employees, how to coach and motivate your employees, things that don't come across well in a recorded presentation, but things that they can communicate better live in a setting that also gives opportunity for question and answer once the employees have had some time to learn about the department, work on it hands-on a little bit, and then get that face time with the leader of the area. And then after the employees complete 3 departments, they come in to Des Moines for in-person learning. And so we section off time with each of the 3 departments that they would have just learned about. And then we coordinate facilitated activities. So they'll break into small groups and they'll take what they learned about that department and break into little groups and they'll work on projects. So for the bakery department, for example, that's just the first one that came to mind. But they worked through planning. They trained on bakery in September. And so then when they came in October, for their in-person learning, they mapped out their plans for the bakery for the Thanksgiving holiday. And so they got the listing of all the items that were in our ad, what the retails of those items would be, what the costs are for those items, so that they knew going into it, okay, here's what we're up against. Here's what our sales and profit goals are. Here's what we're going to project that the ad will generate for us. And then how are we going to make up the rest of that with the additional production and merchandising that we're going to facilitate in our store. And so they work together as a team to build out that plan that they could then take back and implement and execute at their own store to tie all the pieces together.
So that example that you gave with the bakery totally paints a very clear picture in my head, because in 2014, when I was going through my master's program in education, flipped learning was actually the focus that I was honed in on. And what you just described is exactly what I had to do for my literature review. And in the literature review, I had to read 30 plus studies. It was clearly evident in all of them that, while there may have been an improvement, like a slight improvement in just like student scores when you went from a traditional style classroom, much like what you described with that lecture style, and then you're giving information back and you're essentially handing it in and getting it graded, to more of a flip learning style. They notice a small increase in actual results and performance. But where they saw things absolutely take off was with engagement. And that was essentially what you described. And when you look at all the studies and you look at the commonalities of them, it was very clear as to what each one of them tried to do. And that was take the lowest levels of thinking and push those outside the classroom, outside the face-to-face time, whether that's watching something, reading something, whatever it may be, things that they can do on their own. And then once we come together in the face-to-face setting, the actual classroom, now we're going to focus on the upper levels of thinking. And that is analyzing, evaluating, creating exactly what you just described with that bakery scenario where like, here's the situation. Now with everything you've learned together face to face, here's the scenario, you guys come up with the plan. And I would assume that if you guys are collecting feedback from prior to going to the flip learning style to now the flip learning style, you guys are probably getting very positive feedback from those that are participating, I would imagine.
Yes, we are. And so we launched this updated version of our programs last year in January. And so for like our store manager program, that was the one I was explaining with the bakery example. That cohort will wrap up at the end of January in 2023. So we also do benchmark assessments where we assess them on a set of questions about each area they're going to learn about at the beginning of their program. And then we'll give that same assessment at the end of the program. So we'll have some measurable learning to see what they learned and retained over the year-long program. And we have done that previously for our program before the changes. And so I'm really interested to be able to kind of dig into the numerical results of that and see from a learning standpoint, the impact that we've been able to make with that as well.
Where do you, in your role, where do you continue to see the learning progressing for your employees at Hy-Vee in not just the changes that you've made recently, but then in moving forward and trying to make sure that they are the highest quality employees that you guys can put out there into your stores? I know you mentioned the new role that you're bringing on, so that's kind of exciting, but I guess where else do you kind of envision seeing things going?
Yeah, so we've been really focused on making education that's digestible. Time continues to be a constraint that we're up against. You are,
first of all, when you say the word time, you're preaching to a whole choir of educators here.
Yes. And we see that in retail, in the business sector as well. And so really focusing on how we can make short video clips, engaging content for our employees that they can pull up on their phone and watch and learn one single concept while they're in their workflow on the sales floor in their department that they can then use to execute a task. And so that's really, we've spent a couple years revamping and then launched our structured programs for our leadership development programs. And so we're continuing to weave that flipped classroom approach into every component of the programs we have from that sense. And so we're going to continue working on that, continue to make sure that we're keeping the content relevant and updated. But then I think we're going to shift now and go back and focus on giving that type of good learning resources to every employee at Hy-Vee, even those who are not necessarily on a leadership or management path, but so that they have the tools they need to succeed in their role and feel like they are doing a good job in their position with Hy-Vee, so that they feel confident in what they're doing and are, that's what makes people happy and successful in their job at any level. So that's where we're going to focus in on the next year.
So that interview was really neat for me for a few different reasons, but I'll let you kind of share first, Craig, if you don't mind. What were some of the takeaways that you heard from that conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, the connection between businesses and education. And as educators, a lot of times we're not able to see, what happens in businesses where they're investing in their own employees through internal education, and to hear how similar it can be to what we're doing and professional learning that we're doing as educators. She talked about scaffold the learning, break it up into chunks, into segments that are digestible. And, as educators, we do that, but sometimes we see the big picture and we focus on the big picture. Whereas knowing that businesses recognize the value in like segmenting and not having if we were to talk education speak, not necessarily seeing it as chapters, but seeing it in smaller pieces as sections. And we can close the section and move on to the next section. We don't have to have the chapter all the time, although there is value to having that. So I thought that was cool. When she was talking about benchmarking assessments and measuring the learning, it was just really neat to see businesses do this too. And they do it sometimes similarly, sometimes a little bit different. But it's not like when students leave the classroom, they're done learning. And there are businesses in Iowa that are creating awesome experiences for our students. And we need to have our students know they're available and how to access and succeed, to get there.
Yeah, that's really cool that you brought up the fact that you hear so many students like, when am I going to need to know this? Now, it may not necessarily be the content, right? But the strategies that you use to learn within the content area are probably going to be the same strategies that you're going to learn in the business world if your business takes what Hy-Vee's doing and taking and understanding that learning process even more deeply. Like when I was chatting with her and we were talking about flip learning, that's my jam. I mean, that's my thing, because to hear her talk about that, and not only that, just hiring a person who is an expert or who is an educator themselves, like they recognize we need to bring in an educator, somebody who's got that pedagogical, pedagogy is talking about kids, but andragogy is talking about teaching adults. But whatever it may be, bringing in those strategies to help us better train, and not just train, but help our employees better learn, so they could be not just do this, but when this problem occurs, how are you going to troubleshoot it? Like that critical thinking and problem solving.
Yeah. And to build off of that, towards the end, she had kind of mentioned about the future, where is it going? And she was talking about that just-in-time learning, where you have the segments, you have the pieces, you have the benchmarks, but now how do we get it to the right person at the right time? So we're not just teaching everybody all the content and everybody has different holes in different places. It's that the holes are addressed rather than the entire thing. And so if somebody was in produce and didn't know how to do something, they would have a quick segment of learning. They could learn what to do. Then they would be confident in it. I think we've all been in a situation where, whether it's been in our personal lives or our professional lives, we've done something that we aren't confident in doing. And being able to have that, pinpoint, this is how to do what you're wanting to do, provides that confidence and allows the employers and even in the classroom, it allows students to succeed as well. So I think it's a good parallel between the efforts that Hy-Vee's investing in, and they've seen the payback from investing in their employees, but also as classroom teachers, this is something that we can improve on and we can work on, because we ultimately all want students to succeed, and part of that is the content, but part of it is also how to perform things, how to be successful, how to get into the right career that you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a great interview, and I appreciate the thoughts here at the end, Craig, on the reflection. And it's definitely something that I think we can take away, both you and I, as curriculum designers for online spaces. And so for us to improve our own craft, I think it's a really good food for thought. So thanks for joining me today, Craig.
I can't tell you how many times. Yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've thought, working with Hy-Vee, I should implement something similar, or it gives me an idea like, oh, let's try something like that. So yeah, I appreciate it, Jared. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll take care of that little one, and we'll see you hopefully on another episode. Well, that closes out this episode of the Next Level Learning Show. If you want to check out any of the show notes or links or any resources from today's episode, you can find that down in the web link below, or you can go ahead and follow us at any of the social media links. Give us a follow, give us a shout out, give us some questions, some compliments, whatever you want to do. Just interact with us if you would, and we'll be able to get back to you as soon as we can. I just want to say thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Level Up Learning Show.